I bet that everyone in this room knows how it feels to want to be able to say something, but not know what words you want to say to express yourself. To be someone with Asperger's is to have that happen every day of your life. You do not know how to express yourself. How many of you have experienced a small child having a temper tantrum? Today, my little brother had what we call a meltdown. A meltdown it's an extreme temper tantrum. And my little brother, he is 15 years old and he's taller than I am. If you can imagine a small child on the ground kicking and pounding and screaming at the top of their lungs, now imagine that with a 15-year-old. Imagine that with a 20-year-old, a 25-year-old. This is a common thing for people with autism to experience because they don't know how to express themselves the way a normal person might. Because that is how they have found they can express themselves by screaming and shouting and making a fuss so that others know that there's something wrong. And many of you in here are already aware of autism. And I am happy to say that I was actually impressed with all the things I've heard from my classmates this year, or this term, for all that you guys already know. So I just want to inform you a little more about a specific case of autism called Asperger's. So today I will explain the potential causes for Asperger's, symptoms and or behaviors observed for someone with Asperger's, and a few examples of Asperger's in today's media. And I can explain this because I am a person with Asperger's. So the first thing I'm going to talk about are the potential causes for autism in general is usually what these are looked at, but for Asperger's, these are also main causes. So air pollutants. People suspect air pollutants could have something to do with Asperger's and or autism being caused in people when they're young, if they inhale it and they're sensitive to something. And I don't know how much credit I give to this theory, but I do believe that there are some that are more likely. For example, we have some people blame pregnancy complications or viral infections. The truth is, nobody really knows what causes autism. Nobody knows what causes Asperger's. Some people blame vaccines because around the time that children receive vaccines, that's also when they're being diagnosed. So people think that there's a correlation because of the timing. And in my opinion, the most likely cause is a genetic marker that some people have. I say this is in my opinion because in my family there are so many people with Asperger's, and Asperger's itself, not just autism, but Asperger's, is very common in my family. And I have a ribbon here that I borrowed from Anna Maria, and I am very happy that she let me borrow it because I had a picture that wasn't it didn't have any color, so I wanted to show you that it's a rainbow ribbon and it's puzzle pieces, because we are all unique and we all fit, and we all have to work together and be a part of the puzzle. And that is, I have a friend who I asked the question to, and she has Asperger's. She's 19 years old and her name is Peyton, and she says, I was born the way I am, and why should anyone judge me for that? I have taken classes to deal with my ability to express myself, because that is something that people with autism or Asperger's have to do. They have to train themselves to be able to communicate with people that don't have the condition. And there can be some judgment for that. In fact, I was at Special Olympics yesterday at bowling, and I won 2 gold medals. This is a Special Olympics gold medal. This is the front, and this is the back. Don't know how well you can see that, but there's 2 figures, a man and a woman, holding a torch and they're running. I can't see it at all on the screen, so, but it's a beautiful symbol. It symbolizes the togetherness we have. And and yesterday while I was at Special Olympics, I overheard 2 boys who were there because of their own conditions, who we don't even have any way to respect ourselves because we are, because we have seen other people look down on us. These 2 boys, they were chuckling at some of the others who were less functioning, less able to be normal, because they needed a little extra help. And I was hurt, and I kind of stood up to the boys a little bit. I was like, you know what? Can you imagine being in their shoes? And I talked to those guys. I was like, you know what? I prefer to hang out with you guys. And they were really nice kids, and I was extremely happy. And my second topic is about Asperger's in general. It is about the different symptoms or the different observations of a person who might have it. For example, Asperger's is considered a high-functioning type of autism. Usually, someone with Asperger's has average or above average intelligence. They have poor social skills. It's very hard to get to know someone with Asperger's because people with Asperger's are in particular really bad at being able to make that final connection that you make when you're getting into a relationship with people, when you are making a friend. You have to work for it. One thing that people with Asperger's have a special ability or interest in would be patterns. Patterns and rules, things that are the same. They don't like to see change. For example, someone with Asperger's would be very likely to. They know the rules of a red light, a yellow light, and a green light. They know that you stop when you see red. And in the middle of a crossing walk, if they see the light change, even if they should hurry up and get across the street before the car goes or just go back, they will stop dead in the street because they're like, oh my gosh, the rule, I'm not supposed to move. And that can be very dangerous. I've actually been in that situation myself before I was able to be taught the rules. I stopped in the street because I didn't know that I should have kept moving and gotten out of the way. I thought I was doing what I was supposed to do by stopping. And that was very unsafe for me and anyone who's around me because they all ran into the road with me. I have found that people with Asperger's have a difficulty staying on certain topics. For example, there's always something that they get a little obsessive about. For example, in middle school, in sixth grade, my friends introduced me to something called anime, and that was my obsession. For like 3 years, I was completely obsessed with anime. I would talk about it nonstop, and I would relate everything to it. And I wanted to go to Japan. I still want to go, but there's just, but I know now that that's partially because I was very focused on that one specific topic. And so I see that. I've seen that with other people with Asperger's. I've seen that they want to talk about one thing and one thing only because that is what they're interested in, even if it means that someone else doesn't have the ability to talk to them about what they want to talk about. And it can be very hurtful to relationships and to communication to only have one person want to talk about one thing. So you have to understand how their brains are working. For my third topic, I have a couple representations of Asperger's in media. There are a few movies, for example, have any of you read Parental Guidance? There is a beautiful scene in that movie where a boy who is selectively mute, which is to not talk they choose not to talk. And sometimes that can happen. That's one way that can be another barrier to the communication aspect of someone with autism. And he said his first words in that scene, and it was beautiful, and I really recommend that movie. There's another movie called Joyful Noise where, again, a son, because commonly Asperger's is found to be more, it's found to be in men more than it is female. But there's another son in the movie Joyful Noise who he's crying and he's saying, you know, why did God make me like this? If he says, you know, I didn't ask to be like this. He says, he wants to connect with everyone around him, but he just doesn't know how. And he wears sunglasses all the time because he finds that too much light is too much. Textures are another thing that are really big. People with autism or with Asperger's are likely to be very sensitive to textures. And it can cause problems. For example, I knew someone who had to wear all the clothes inside out because they couldn't stand how it felt on the inside of the clothing. And it's really interesting to watch from the perspective of someone who's been taught how to communicate with other people versus someone who is just learning now that they are not normal. There are a couple of other examples. In Grey's Anatomy, there is Virginia Dixon, and she is a doctor who was introduced in season 5? Question mark? Yes, I think so. She is a great doctor, and she comes across at the beginning as kind of cold and emotionless because she doesn't know how to express herself. In Bones, Dr. Brennan is, they make a joke about it. She'd be the main character, they call her Bones. And she is another character who has been classified as probably has Asperger's, but they didn't confirm it or deny it yet at this point. There's a whole show called Touch, where the little boy in the show is he has a form of autism, which is suspected to be Asperger's, and he's really into numbers and patterns, and he can see a pattern in any kind of numbers, and it's a really cool show. I recommend that one too. And luckily for me, I've had the opportunity to meet a lot of beautiful and abnormal and strange and beautiful people, and I hope that your hearts are going to be open to those who are beautiful and abnormal, just as mine is. And I hope that you guys are willing to try your best to see things from the perspective of someone that doesn't know how to communicate